So, do you remember how old you were about the time whenever the Great Depression was wearing off? And kind of like, kind of America getting back on its feet again.
Oh, when it got back on its feet? Well, I guess I was, the Great Depression, I've forgotten how long it lasted actually. Did you have those figures on how long did it last?
Probably about to like 1930, 1940.
I think in the 40s is when we started recovering pretty well. So then I was 11 or 12 years old and into high school, but we still didn't have a lot of money. But we had, we were comfortable. But when I was going to grade school, I didn't tell you this earlier, I had 5 dresses, 1 pair on day and a week, and 1 pair of shoes. And then on Sunday I had a Sunday dress and a pair of shoes, Sunday shoes. And that's about all the clothes we had.
Not a very wide selection, I guess.
So compare that to today, and that was a good selection. A lot of kids didn't have that.
Yeah, and a lot of them only had like 1 pair of clothes, and it was really bad.
So actually, the Depression affected our family, but not as bad as it did some families. And the reason our home was secure is because Roosevelt passed an act whereby the average person could get a loan called building and loan with the government. And so my parents didn't lose their home because they took out a loan with the government and they paid it off by the month for a number of years. But my dad always said that Franklin Roosevelt saved our home for us. And we had a pretty nice home. It was not really extravagant, but it was nice.
So, at the age around when it ended, do you remember during the Depression, do you remember having to grow up a little more than...
Having what?
Having to grow up a little more than you should have at the time?
Well, I think I did have to grow up early because, I started school when I was 5 and a half. And we had to take responsibility very young in my family. My parents were German immigrants, at least my dad was. My mother's folks were from Switzerland, and they were pretty strict. But we all started school 5 and a half. That wasn't unusual. And that was the first grade. That wasn't kindergarten.
Did you say you started high school at 11 or 12 years old?
Well, when I started high school, I guess I was 12, 13, I guess, when I started the 9th grade. But I finished high school in 3 years. So I was 16 when I started to college. And I got finished with college when I was 20. But I think all of that was a result of the fact that we needed to get ahead and be able to get out and earn our own money. My parents kind of pushed us to go into school. So I was 20 when I finished college. And I had to wait 1 year to get my license for a pharmacist because you had to be 21. And I finished the pharmacy course when I was 20. I did do some practical work in there though before I got my license. So there is something I do remember when I was growing up though about my grandmother came down my birthday's in January, so she came down and I'd always get a silver dollar and some fresh homemade German sausage. I loved that sausage. And of course, $1 then was a man's wages for a day. So I felt like I was rich.
How was your grandma getting paid then? How was she getting? Was she already set or whatever, money wise?
How did she what? I didn't understand that.
Was she already set money wise? I guess.
Oh well, she wasn't. They had a farm and they sold grapes and that sort of thing. And then my aunt later put in a winery when the wineries became popular in Arkansas. So they started making a little money about that time. But I'd say from 1929 until about 1940, it was really pretty rough. People just didn't have money. But we were poor, but we didn't know we were poor because everybody was in the same boat, you know. And we had to make up our own games and stuff. And we made these rubber guns and kick the can and all kind of stuff. You know, we kind of made up our games.
Yeah, seems like games today are more like on phones and stuff, but I'd rather
And we
be
didn't even have a
outside.
telephone in our home until I was 16.
Wow. Dang.
So, but we got along. We made it just fine. All of my brothers and sisters and myself and all my brothers and sisters finished college. So we did good. My two sisters finished college with a master's degree. My older brother had a doctor's degree, and my younger brother and myself had a pharmacist degree. So my parents were hardworking and thrifty. So that's the reason we did that well.
Well, they raised you good.
Now, neither of my parents had any education to speak of, though. My father finished the 3rd or 4th grade. My mother finished the 8th grade. But my father had to quit when he was in the 4th grade to go work in the coal mines to support the family.
I feel like a lot of the families in the coal mining regions were not really good off.
No, it's hard work and low pay.
That's one thing I was wondering about. Like, you mentioned how you had fun, like how you made up games and things.
Oh, yeah.
And things. And also, if there was anyone around you that you knew that had it a little worse than you did.
If there's anyone what?
Around you that, like, you socialized with or whatever that had it a little worse than you.
Oh, yeah. I knew this family that were kind of friends of ours. His name was Henry Reed. And there were, I think, 6 children living in a 2-bedroom house. And they're the ones who got commodities. And my dad would help them by trading other groceries for their commodities. And and we always gave them our clothes that we outgrew and things like that. Yeah, they lived in two rooms and had to ask for government food from the government. We called them commodities in those days. Now it's food stamps, you know. But they actually gave you food. If you go down to I think a couple times a month you can go down and get food.
Thank you for, because, like...
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you for, letting me
Oh,
talk to
you're
you about
welcome.
this.
I probably could think of a lot of other things, but not right now.
Trip down memory lane.